Welcome to the Alpha Hashrate podcast. It's been a few weeks since we've given an update, but we've got our site and everything launched. We've been messing around with different hardware. I actually went to get a S9 off eBay using Bit Refill, and it just didn't work. So I ended up getting a Nintendo 64 instead because I couldn't get the money back from Bit Refill. So Bit Refill contacted eBay. eBay customer service is just useless. So I was like, oh, all right. And the guy selling it was like, oh, what's going on? How come you can't pay? I'm like, dude, it just keeps coming up with an error, like error 42. And what does that mean?
So you could apply the gift card to other products, just not that one?
Anything else, just not the miner. So I was thinking,
that's weird.
It's really weird, right? I was like, what is it?
There must be some condition that you can't use gift cards for that particular product line. That's all that makes sense.
But
I've never heard of that before.
Nah. So I ended up, just getting into 64 with GoldenEye.
Fuck yeah.
Four controllers. Yeah.
The classic.
The classic. I wanted one for a while. I'm like, oh, look, instead of harassing Bit Refill, I'll just get something else that I want, sort of thing. So, but yeah, what I actually wanted to try is something that I sent you today, was using it for heating specifically. So figuring out how to actually run a box, because out this window here, I've got a the Zazzy, which is like a grow tent sort of thing with the miners in it, and pipe that comes out. The pipe pumps hot air. So I was thinking, if I could set one up on the other side of the house.
So that's outdoor, right? Is that outside?
Yep. Yeah.
Like on a balcony or something, or?
Just under pergola sort of thing. But I was thinking if
well, how's the noise level out there?
Okay. Actually, I'll open the window so you can
hear. I hope I don't.
Can you hear that? It's just it's not bad.
Okay, no, I can't really hear it, so it mustn't be too bad.
I find it's fine. So that's what I was sort of thinking, putting one on the other side of the house and getting just a hole into the house, run some pipe, heat coming in. So my partner's not running a heater all the time. It's just, it is a heater. It's just, whenever you turn it on, it's making some
money.
Stats. Yeah. I like that concept. So I was kind of like, oh, well, if I could do it just on a small scale, maybe that's something you could do. Well, to your point, and not piss off your neighbors. It's too loud. Just jam it on the roof, pointing out towards someone else's house. But if you can do it low cost enough and low, keep the noise to a minimum, I reckon it's a cool idea.
Yeah, I mean, look, it probably makes even more sense where I live. I live in an acre block surrounded by trees. My closest neighbor is I've got one, and they're 150 meters away. So I live in the mountains, so it's cold. So this actually sounds like an experiment I should probably do.
You probably should.
Sadly, I'm only renting, so I can't really probably do too many holes and stuff. But
yeah,
I could probably ask for permission and figure out a way, or maybe take because I got a gas heater that's got a flue that goes outside. So maybe just rip that flue out and put a Bitcoin miner just outside, put a little shelter on it, and then feed that through the hole that's already existing for the gas miner, and just use the Bitcoin miner and see if that actually makes any significant difference to heating. Because it's bitterly cold up here in the mountains during winter. Some of these mornings lately have been, -3 degrees, which is
free cooling.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, my energy rates are about to go up, actually, my residential ones. I was waiting for the email or the call, and I got it early this week. From August 1st, my prices are going up. Actually, my daily supply charge is going down ever so slightly, but my kilowatt per hour is going up. It's still okay. It's not horrible. I'm hearing some people talk 40 cents per kilowatt, which is just outrageous.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not quite those levels, thankfully.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely the tough thing at the moment in the market here in Australia, and I guess the world to some degree, is the energy grid systems are being really pushed to their limits. with gas plants going down and all sorts of stuff. Really,
What do you think? What do you think the genesis of that is? Because it seems to be um, to sort of coincide with a lot of the monetary issues that have kind of happening across the world and inflation and all that. Like it's a weird coincidence, if you want to call it that it's all kind of happening at the same time. What do you reckon it is?
it's probably a combination of things. I don't know if it's necessarily this big conspiracy or something that you might be alluding to. It could be. I love a conspiracy theory, but a lot of these plants are old and decrepit. They have lifespans, and they're probably coming to the end of much of it.
Yeah.
So there's probably an element of that. There's probably an element of natural disasters. We've had a lot of rain here in Sydney and other parts of the country. Perhaps that's affected some of these sites. Hard to say, but yeah, it's probably a combination of a number of things.
Factors. Yeah.
But I do get the gut feeling that a lot of it is just like poor infrastructure, old decrepit stuff that's on its way out that hasn't been maintained or is not cost effective to maintain. And so we've got the big lean and push into clean and renewable sources, especially here in Australia. Like the last election was basically decided on the fact that Labor had a more green policy than what Liberals did, which is all smoke and mirrors. But it's not sexy to start up a coal mining plant, and that's generally what gives us the vast majority of the base load here in Australia. I'm not here to get into a discussion of whether coal is the future or not, but it is at least the thing that gives us some level of certainty and base load in our grid. And so a lot of these, again, plants are kind of getting to their, I think they have about 30, 40 year life cycles, generally speaking. So many of them are coming to the end of that. So they're going offline. And whenever they talk about, opening up a new coal plant, there's always big kickback from the greenies and all the lefties and socialists that say, we can't do that. It's going to destroy the planet. And, I guess there's some degree of truth to that. But at the same time, you end up in situations like this where we're being told to turn off our heating at night in the middle of winter to preserve the grid. Like, this is when I need to use it. Like, I'm cold. Like I need to use electricity. So that's the flip side, right? Is going too hard, too green, too quickly means that we can't actually do what we need to do. But I don't want to get too political or anything about this.
Well, yeah. But I was sort of drawing like an analogy to like the centralization of the monetary system, creating like inflation to the power grid, right? Like it's centralized. Do you think that might be a factor to that? It's like having these like central authorities over how power is generated and well, like you said, consumed, telling you when you need to turn things off. Do you think that might be a factor as well?
Look, I'm only fairly new to the whole energy space, so I can't claim to be any type of expert or really know the finer details. But here in Australia, we've got AMO, which basically regulates all of the grid and the generators and the providers and all that sort of stuff. And they've, again, from my very basic understanding of what's going on and what I've been paying attention to, I've seen them stick their hands in. And anytime I see people, regulators, governments, try to stick their hands into pies, that's usually a bad sign. I'm not saying it necessarily is in this case, but I get the gut feeling that some of what you're suggesting might just be valid. So yeah, it is probably centralization and all that garbage that comes along with it that is contributing to a lot of the issues that we're having right now, for sure.
Yeah, it's that model, the hub and spoke model of anything like fails after a certain amount of time, right? Like I think like kind of going back to what we were talking about in the last podcast with Sailor, like thinking into the future, like I can sort of see and kind of wanting it now, right? Like you're saying all these things that you can see are going to happen, but you kind of want them now. Like the whole idea of having a grid and these like centralized, like I'm generating here, right? So I've got solar on the roof, got a Tesla
Yep.
battery, but it's predicated on me having a connection to the grid. So the battery doesn't charge unless I'm connected to the grid, and it's like you get rebates from the grid. But realistically, I think having a decentralized network where you have everyone kind of doing this and contributing is going to be a solution sort of for the future. And I can see that like being powered by the BTC network as well. So like what was the guys in Perth or whatever that created the
Power Ledger.
Power Ledger, yeah. So that, but like on Lightning, I reckon something like that would really, really, really help with these situations. And it's like you look at like Adelaide a few years ago when their systems like all died, and then Elon came in and sort of fixed it up with his batteries. But why does it have to be centralized? Like, why can't we do a decentralized version of that? So I think that's probably where we're going to go. It's just a matter of time, and I suppose like having like the energy crisis or whatever you want to call it, and prices going up, kind of gives us a reason to pursue that quicker than if it wasn't. So it could be a positive, right?
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah.
Could be.
I try to stay optimistic about it, but yeah, the current climate is really hard for Bitcoin miners here in Australia. I mean, really hard for us. When we were first sort of putting the pieces together for Alpha, say 2-3 months ago, it was a completely different landscape. We were very bullish. We know there was organic demand out there. Energy prices were reasonable, certainly not setting the world on fire, but they were manageable. Whereas now it's much more difficult, and I'm not entirely sure when we might see some reprieve from that. So I know a lot of people who are currently not mining because it's just too expensive to be mining, and it's not cost effective. So, and ultimately, I think the vast majority of miners are looking at it from a purely financial perspective, less altruistic perhaps to what I might be, where I'll mine because I want sats. And I know those sats are worth a hell of a lot more in 10 years' time. But at the end of the day, most miners are looking to cover their expenses in real time. So it's a lot more challenging for them to remain profitable and in the green. Some will cop it on the chin for a while, but everyone has a breaking point. So we're finding a lot of people reaching their breaking points at the moment, given the current cost of electricity here in Australia and other parts of the world as well, which I know less of course. But it's tough times, but we've got a very long-term horizon in what we're doing here with Alpha. And myself as just an individual Bitcoiner as well is a very, very low time preference. So these are just minor hiccups, so to speak, in the grand scheme of things. I think when we were having this conversation, and in a year or two from now, it'll be completely different again. We'll probably flip it on its head, and we'll have too much power, too cheap, or something.
No, you could be right. Totally right.
I don't know, but we're still pushing on. So hopefully, our first build will be done in about a fortnight. Is the timeline, give or take some variance, of course, but close. So at that point, I think, or even perhaps sooner, we'll be going public, so to speak, even though this is very much a public podcast. And if anyone is watching, they would be able to figure out what we're doing and who we are and all that sort of stuff. But we're not making a hell of a lot of noise besides this for the meantime. But that time will come, and it's getting close. So I actually did a presentation at a Bitcoin Sydney and Bitcoin Mining Australia crossover event 2 weeks ago, or roughly 2 weeks ago, maybe a little bit less, here in Sydney. That was cool. So it's the regular Bitcoin Sydney meetup, but kind of did a little bit of a clash and collab with the Bitcoin Mining Australia Telegram group. So for anyone that isn't in those groups, I very much welcome you to join, because there's some really high level and great discussions in both of those groups. The Bitcoin Sydney one more generally about Bitcoin, the Bitcoin Mining one obviously specifically about Bitcoin mining related topics, but there's some great minds in there. But yeah, it went really well. People received it. They seemed interested for the most part about what we're trying to do here with Alpha. And we're certainly not the only people in Australia looking to do hosting type services, albeit we are the only people that I've come across so far offering immersion cooled hosting services, which is our unique selling point. But there are plenty of others doing similar things in the sort of air cooled space at different phases of their sort of journeys as well. Some ahead, some similar, some behind. Sadly, some are shutting down. I'm hearing news about other services shutting down. Again, it's, the climate's taking its toll. Whilst it sucks, that is part of being in a capitalist system in a free market. The winner lives on. We're not out of the woods. We're lucky in the sense we maybe aren't online, so we don't really have.
Yeah, might have been perfect timing, actually.
Yeah, if we had 1,000 customers now and they were all essentially losing money because it's not affordable, then we would have different set of problems on our hands. But it is what it is. But yeah, hopefully that long-term vision and low time preference ultimately stands us well over the course of time. But yeah, anyone who is interested, get in touch. alphahashrate.com is our website. We're always happy to chat. We want to hear about what people are thinking when it comes to hosting services.
Mining in general.
Mining in general. Yeah, mining in general.
What I'm excited about actually is having the space built so we can, like, I'm potentially getting my miner back, knock on wood, from Compass. So once they send that out, we can put that in the facility. And yeah, us actually getting in there, having a play, and working with all this new tech, like mining tech that's out there, having a space to do that so we can make it easy for other people. So we're on track. So I think it's actually kind of perfect, really. This bear market gives us a chance to sort of play with the new tool.
I think so too. I mean, it is always fun to get excited about, bull markets and all the hysteria that comes with it. But where we're at, we probably need a little bit of air to breathe, and a bit of peace and quiet just to test some things and to slowly ramp up.
Like, physically build, like people talk about building, right? Like,
we're literally building containers and tanks and heat exchangers and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think it's going to be a blessing in disguise. Having to slowly ramp up and take our time with these things, I think it'll be good. Because, like you said, gives us a chance to throw some miners in there, start testing some stuff. Like I know we want to play around with some like Brains OS things, and we want to try some overclocking because, these are only just assumptions at the moment that we're making about our immersion mining setup. Being able to more safely and efficiently overclock, because we don't have dust and air and heat and all sorts of bad things for computing hardware. But until we actually test it and do it ourselves, we need to validate these assumptions so we can go to market with them and actually tell people, hey, yeah, we can safely overclock your machines and get 20, 30% more hash rate out of them without, not having to cop less lifespan or significantly less lifespan out of your hardware. So I think it's a good thing. I think it is a bit of a blessing in disguise, and we'll take our time and hopefully do it the right way. Part of the inspiration for what we've been doing here at Alpha, and the reason I want to get into this was because I wanted to also be a customer of something like Compass, like you are, or not, I guess not really am at the moment because you're not mining, but they grew too quickly, too fast, and that has its own set of challenges and problems, and the temptation is to want that, but I think the sustainable and the sensible way is to perhaps try to actively avoid that. It is hard because, there's the big dangly carrot of money and customers is a very big temptation.
Yes.
But thankfully we perhaps don't have that temptation at the moment, given all that we've said about the current climate. So we can just truly focus on building a product that we want to
But
build.
I will say, like in terms of the EDU aspect, which I'm excited about, so actually getting to figure out some of this tech, and like we were talking about previously, setting up nodes and making walkthroughs for other people. The EDU components, like through Digital Playhouse, which I now have a space for in Victoria. So there's one up in Agnes Waters, one here. Very much interested in mining and the EDU component to alpha. So I think that's something that we could probably focus on in this bear market as well, right? It's like it's not all just about customers and people paying for energy and that sort of thing, or hosting, whatever. There is a lot of learning that learners can do and students can do at the moment. So that's something else I'm really excited to pursue.
100%, great point. Like, gives us an opportunity to build out documentation, videos, guides, education, because there's still a lot of FUD and a lot of misunderstanding about Bitcoin mining. So anything that we can do to help push it in the right direction through content and stuff like that is going to be, I think, hopefully very welcomed. I know I would like to see that as a new Bitcoin miner, to have that kind of content and guides and videos and stuff like that helping me along my journey. Because yeah, I'm not the most technically minded, whilst I understand a bit. I'm certainly not crazy tech nerd guy, but so I'm always looking for help. Even like with my node and stuff, we've both been experimenting with new node software recently, and it's sparse. Like there's a lot of different options out there, but when something like just one thing goes wrong, it's almost like shit. Everything breaks. Like,
yeah, and
it's
a lot of it's like alpha. So there's no alpha, meaning like alpha projects. There's no like support for them. It's just like, yep, you're on your own. It's like,
yeah.
Cool. Back to the drawing board, back to square one.
And I guess that's where we come in with Alpha Hashrate, is we're
Yes.
trying to give people that alpha and help them along their journey from start to finish when it comes to Bitcoin mining, because it is still complex at times. There are certainly many people who can get it, and you're mining Bitcoin at home, and some people like doing the fiddly stuff and enjoy the challenge, but for some other people, I think perhaps even the majority perhaps don't have the patience and the time and the expertise and sort of, I guess, the willpower to figure all that shit out.
Yeah, and having a community as well, I think that's really important. So like, somewhere you can ask questions and all that sort of stuff and get good feedback. Because I think I was talking to, there was someone, I met someone who was mining BTC. Who was it? The last week or the week before. Anyway, to a bloody custodial wallet. I was like, what? It's like CoinJar or something. Well, that's defeats the purpose of mining in the first place. Like, so having like a succinct like path to follow for that sort of stuff, whether it's hosted or them sort of learning to do stuff on their own, little things like that. Like, why would you want to mine to your own node? Like, most people don't understand that. So like having a succinct sort of thing to follow for that, or a curriculum around that, I think that's really important. So one of the other projects I'm working on, which I've probably spoken about on this podcast, is the School of Bitcoin, schoolofbitcoin.com, building open curriculum. So part of that there is mining stuff up there already, but making it more concise, and eventually it's going to be consensus driven around that stuff as well. So like financial literacy aspect, mining has to be a part of that, right? Like it's part of the journey. So yeah, I'm really excited for alpha, and I think this bear market's going to allow us to build a lot, and we'll keep this podcast going. And I think even if we do it fortnightly, just to give updates on where we're at with our builds and stuff that we're working on, and even curriculum and where the markets are at as well, because that could turn around tomorrow. We don't know. So yeah, definitely keen to keep pursuing this. Any other final points, Chris?
No, I think I'm good for this week. Not a lot there's a bit to report on, but I think over the next fortnight to a month, we'll have some more exciting news about our container being complete. Maybe we can share some photos. We can kind of go a little bit more public with what we're working on, and start drumming up some some excitement, essentially, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time.